Amy DeWitt Smith. And of course, somebody has to call me right up as I'm starting this, the joys of doing these things online. Anyway, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to put the poll up. As you'll remember from last time, this is a pre-test where you're going to ask the same set of questions at the
is valuable and will allow you to take back some really nice pieces of information to your teams. So I want to start with first playing for you just a little sound bite of a song, and then we'll have a little bit of a conversation about that in just a second. So let me play just a snippet of this song. I'm glad that this isn't an early morning webinar. Hopefully everybody can hear that. So is anybody here into death metal? So I am not. This song is actually from a band that my oldest son listens to. And I'm just curious for you all, did you listen to any music coming into work this morning, or maybe while you were preparing for your day? If you want to go ahead and put in the chat, what genre were you listening to this morning, or maybe a specific band or artist? Or did you not listen to music at all? Was your morning routine fairly quiet? Did you crank up the volume, or was it just kind of a subtle background noise for you? So yeah, just either in the chat or the Q&A, I'll try to look at both there. So we've got, let's see, Pop. Lauren Daigle all the way. I'm not familiar with Lauren Daigle. Christian, Black Keys, Gospel, K-Love. Right, so some faith-based music. It sounds like pretty important to some of you. Hawaiian reggae. Ooh, that sounds fun. Listen to the news. Alternative rock, rap, country, classic vinyl. I listen to Bad Bunny on my lunch break. I will have to look up who Bad Bunny is. Country. No music, just an audiobook. Just a little in the background. Quiet, no music. R&B, show tunes, quiet morning, podcasts, 70s, 80s rock, women-led metal. All right. Some female empowerment music there to get your day going. Folk, classic rock, Joni Mitchell, religious songs, R&B, hip hop. So pretty much every genre we can think about. Alternative rock, country. Nice. So a really nice variety of music this morning as you're starting your daily routine. I'm curious if your only option for what you listened to this morning while you were getting ready or trying to prepare for your day was volume turned up, Liege of Inner Veracity by Suffocation. That's what that song is. It's Liege of Inner Veracity by Suffocation. If you had to listen to that during your morning routine, would you be okay with it? What do you think that might evoke for you? Does anybody want to answer that? If you had to listen to this type of death metal music instead of what we've all said our preferences are, become anxious, it's not very calming. Somebody said I would hate it. Frustration, it's not their style. It would probably put them in a bad mood. Anger and annoyance first thing in the morning. It sounds angry. You'd go back to bed, probably go for a run. So I'm curious, so overstimulated. If you couldn't go back to bed, what if, you had this overstimulation and you're feeling anxious and it's too loud, and you didn't have that option to go back to bed or lay down and get away from that? That would probably be a problem, right? I think I mentioned somebody said they'd be in a bad mood. So we might be seeing some behaviors from you, right? So if that environment that you're in is just overstimulating, it's not your jam, you might be showing some some behaviors. And so I'm sure you're kind of seeing what I'm getting at here, that even something as simple as the sounds in our environment, something like music that's so specific to us as individuals, could really set off your day one way or another. It could either be really calming and, uplifting, or it can be something that makes you just want to, escape back to bed and not really be around people. So thinking about us having that choice in something as simple as what we hear as we're getting ready in the morning could really set the trajectory for our whole day. So that's just kind of one example of some of what we're going to talk about today. And we'll do a couple of other quick exercises. So definitely keep your chat box open. I've usually do this training in person, so it's hard for me when I don't get to really see your faces and engage, but I'm really happy that so many of you are active in the chat there. So I will try to keep an eye on that, as well as the Q&A box. And we hopefully I won't miss anything. I don't know if Catherine or Kathy, if you can also help me keep an eye on that box, I would appreciate it. Just so I make sure I don't want to miss anything important. Great. All right, so let's get going here. So today we are going to, oops, that didn't click. We're going to review just some quick statistics for IDD and dementia, intellectual disabilities, intellectual and developmental disabilities and dementia, and then defining person first language or people first language, discussing the platinum rule versus the golden rule, learning how to be a person-centered thinker as an aging and disability professional, and then understanding how to create more inclusive communities within your organizations. All right, so it's really important that I kind of set the stage for why this is important for all of us. So whether you work in aging, work in disability services, or both, we're really seeing some very significant changes in our population statistics in the US. And so, there were over 7 million people with an intellectual disability in the United States in 2019. So some of these statistics are even, almost 5 years old now. Of those, 22% or 1.58 million people were known to their state developmental disabilities agency. So only 22% were actually in that DD service system. 19% or 1.4 million people received at least one long-term support or service in addition to case management. For every person with IDD getting publicly funded supports, 4 more people with IDD do not. The other 81% were being supported by their natural support network. So their parents, their siblings, other relatives, their community, their church family. What happens as a person ages? Their natural support network ages, and they need additional support to remain living well in the community. What are we going to do when this happens now that people are living longer? And what do we do while they wait sometimes 15 years on a Medicaid wait list? There are states right now that have a 15-year Medicaid waiver waitlist for those home and community-based services. So for Down syndrome specifically, I have the statistic here that 50% or more of people with Down syndrome will develop dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. This statistic is actually much higher. I mean, this is like kind of the lower estimate. It's really looking more like 70, 80% or more. So the estimated number of people living with Down syndrome in the US has grown from almost 50,000 in 1950 to over 200,000 in 2016. That's the 435% growth rate. So why do we think this is? I mean, if I had to take a guess, better care, people living longer. We're going to get into a little bit of the evolution of long-term support services over the years and how that's impacting people's health, well-being, and their ability to live longer. So when we talk about life expectancy for people with Down syndrome, in 1900, the life expectancy of a person with Down syndrome was 9 years, just only 9 years. By 1984, the life expectancy had increased to 28 years. And since then, the life expectancy of people with Down syndrome has increased to more than 60 years. Remarkably, but not surprisingly, as we move people out of institutions and increased engagement, social connections, and created more person-centered supports, they began to live longer. So I want to make a point too here that, particularly for Down syndrome, that aging population, that rate of aging is actually much more rapid than the general population. So it's really kind of an interesting statistic to consider, and really thinking about how is that affecting all of us. Obviously it's affecting those working in developmental services, because we're having to learn how do services change as someone ages. But then also on the aging service side, historically somebody with Down syndrome or IDD might get kicked back to disability services for support, but now there are people who need specific services that are for people who are aging. And so it really behooves even people on the aging side to better understand how to support somebody with IDD or a related condition as they age. Okay, so let's see. I think did I already click on that? Did we already look at this one? I think I already showed you this one, maybe not. So this just goes over some of those statistics again. The 50%. So by age 40, most people with Down syndrome evidence having plaques and tangles, which cause problems with how brain cells function and increase the risk of developing dementia symptoms. Estimates suggest that 50% or more of people with Down syndrome will develop dementia due to Alzheimer's disease as they age. Because people with Down syndrome are living longer, we can anticipate a much greater need for long-term support services to specialize in these co-occurring conditions. And I think it really lends to the importance of also protecting and supporting those unpaid caregivers. So family members and that natural support network who's having to kind of hold on and provide that support for longer than historically we ever saw. So going back to the number of people with IDD, including those with Down syndrome who rely on a natural support network, consider that this is the first generation where parents of children with Down syndrome will likely predecease their children. This is not something as a nation we had to plan for even 40 years ago. So historically, we know that a lot of those home and community-based waiver service programs are designed around habilitation, right? We, the goals and the way that we support people is based on either them learning a new skill or maintaining their current skills. But as we age, as anyone ages, that's not necessarily realistic, right? So we're going to maybe lose some skills or not really be able to realistically participate in supports that are habilitative. So now that we're seeing this change, what is that next step? What does retirement look like for somebody with IDD? All right, so I want to get into people first language and the importance of the words we use. I know that we hear a lot of times, oh, that's just semantics, right? Or being politically correct. Well, even just the definition of semantics, I think, is relevant when it comes to this topic. Semantics, by definition, Webster says it's a doctrine, an educational discipline intended to improve habits of response of human beings to their environment and one another, especially by training in more critical use of words and other symbols. So it's really what brings meaning behind the words we use, and that's why it's so important. It shapes our culture, it shapes our behavior, our opinions, and even forms stereotypes. So Kathy Snow, I've got a few different practitioners that I'll mention throughout our slides here. Kathy Snow is a woman who is a parent of an adult with a disability, and she is almost kind of like the pioneer of people first language. So she's got a wonderful website that has a lot of different tools and materials that I encourage you to look into, that you can download and use in your trainings and with your teams. Let me just all right, I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything in the Q&A there. So a disability descriptor is simply a medical diagnosis. People first language respectfully puts the person before the disability. A person with a disability is more like people without disabilities than different. So I know a lot of you come from a disability service background, so this is probably not new for you, but we're going to do some activities to really make sure while we understand it, we're actually practicing it. Okay, so people with disabilities and elders are not people who suffer from the tragedy of dementia, paraplegic heroes who struggle to become normal again, or victims who fight to overcome their challenges. They are people, grandmas and grandpas, moms and dads, sons and daughters, employers and employees, friends and neighbors, students and teachers, scientists, reporters, doctors, actors, presidents, and more. People with disabilities and elders are people first. So some inaccurate descriptors that we want to make sure we avoid. Handicapped, handicapped is what we, label a parking spot or a bathroom stall, not a person. Disabled, birth defects or brain damage, special needs. That, you hear that a lot, particularly with youth and school districts. They still kind of use the word special a lot, special education. It can be really patronizing to somebody to be considered special when they just want to be like everybody else. Suffers from, afflicted with, or victim of. Using low or high functioning. And I know this one can be really tricky because, there are a lot of different disorders that are on a spectrum. And we want to be able to articulate where somebody might be at with their skills or their support needs. And so it's really easy to slip into that, oh, they're high functioning autism or low functioning or something like that. And really, when we think about it, putting that label on there doesn't really objectively tell anybody anything. High functioning autism to one of you might look different than what I might think high functioning autism looks like. And so, really, the way to describe it is just state the specific behavior. What do they do? Does, Joe use really effective verbal communication skills, or does Sue need a little bit more support with mobility? And so just kind of using words that more objectively describe what the person does or doesn't do is going to help whoever is receiving that information anyway. Low and high doesn't really convey very much. Clients, consumers, patients, residents, these are all labels, right? So, and I know this can be really hard. I hear clients a lot more, particularly on the aging side, and even things like residents and patients. It's not necessary. And what happens when we use these types of labels is it others a person. So it kind of puts them on a different playing field. So I have clients, right? It's showing some ownership there. And we don't obviously own or possess anybody. There's no reason why we can't say, my organization supports people in a facility-based situation, or one of the people that we currently support does XYZ. You can just say person or people. You really don't need the label. And I know it's hard because it's so ingrained in our work and our career, but really kind of trying to get used to just using the word people and person, making sure that you're conveying that we're all part of the same human experience, even if some of us have different preferences or different needs. We're still all people, and we don't want to be wearing that expert hat too tightly. So I don't know if anybody's seen, this is a wonderful movie. It's a really old movie. I Am Sam. Sean Penn is an adult with an intellectual disability, and he has a daughter that he's raising. And within the movie, I don't want to give it away, but I'm hoping most of you have seen it by now. In the movie, people have called into question his ability to continue to care for his daughter because she's getting older. She doesn't have an intellectual disability, and they just are struggling to understand how he could possibly, appropriately parent her. And so he connects with an attorney who's initially pretty insensitive, doesn't have really a lot of experience working with somebody with a disability. And so she says to him, I need that list of names from you. People who can testify that you're a good father despite your handicap. I didn't mean your handicap. I meant your disability. She shakes her head. The fact that you're retarded. That's not the right word. Exasperated, she says, I don't know what to call you. To which he replies, Sam. You can call me Sam. So I thought that line in that movie really highlights the importance of why we don't need labels, because Sam is Sam. He may have an intellectual disability, but his intellectual disability isn't going to look like the next person's. And so understanding who Sam is and all of his unique traits and the things that he can do and not do is really specific to Sam, not person with a disability or, heaven forbid, the R word. So why what we say matters. So words simultaneously reflect and reinforce our attitudes and perceptions. They shape our world. Disability descriptors, or even things like diagnoses, they sometimes evoke feelings and imagery that perpetuate archaic and negative stereotypical perceptions. These perceptions create a powerful attitudinal barrier. the greatest obstacle to success and inclusion of people with disabilities and elders in our community. So when we start to other people, we see them as those people, them over there. That's when we start to create those barriers. And it really affects our ability to support someone in a person-centered way, to understand that shared human experience that we all have. So does anybody remember, and maybe you can type in the chat, what does anybody know what the golden rule is? What's the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Yep, treat others as you want to be treated. Exactly. Exactly right. And so the golden rule is a really great baseline. If you've just met someone or somebody, you pass or by in the grocery store, it's really great to at least at the minimum treat someone how we would want to be treated. So kind of thinking about, well, I wouldn't like that, so I'm not going to do that to another person. That's a great baseline. But there's also the platinum rule. So as we get to know someone and we have more engagement and interaction with somebody, we really want to think about implementing the platinum rule versus just the golden rule, because the golden rule does assume that people want exactly what we want. And while in general, we may want a lot of the same kind of general things within the different life areas, there are really a lot of specifics that are individualized just for us as people. And so we don't want to just stop there at treating somebody as we want to be treated. We really want to make sure that we first understand what the person wants and then give it to them. So that's the platinum rule, is kind of more of an approach that supports person-centered thinking. Okay, so again, in the chat, if you could type, what are the most important aspects of your life? So what gives you a sense of purpose? What helps you get out of bed in the morning? What defines success for you each day? So I'll give you just a couple minutes to maybe put some things in there that are some of the most important aspects of your life. So helping others, it's not a shocker when you get a bunch of people from Health and Human Services on a call. Making a positive impact on at least one person, right? So every day, even if it's just one person. Grandkids, happiness, my family and friends, family, 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 helping others, being happy. My work, teaching gives me purpose. My grandchildren keep me going. Family and socializing, helping others, bring joy to everyone, being uplifting. Family, family, my pets, my girlfriend, helping others in any way I can, making a positive impact on others, healing and helping others, my faith, my relationships, keeping myself healthy, my family, coming to work to do the best for them, meeting people where they are, building connections and helping others, staying positive in difficult situations, family, harmony, and good friends together, prayer circle, my family and job, helping others and supporting others, family, lots of family, relations with others. So, right, engagement, connecting with other people, having someone, including my animals, to share time with, feeling and sharing love, helping others and family, all things that bring me peace, my faith, trying to live with integrity in all aspects and teaching this to my child, right? So passing on some of those ideals. Very good. So I'm hearing a lot of, there's like some common themes in there, right? We want to engage, we want to be connected with others, whether that's our family or the people we support and the things we do at work, our pets, our church communities. I heard a lot of my faith in there, lots of helping others. So let's see. So this slide goes over the core needs of people living with dementia, with or without intellectual disability. So it includes things like feeling useful, retain a sense of self-worth, give and receive love, care for others and ourselves, experience joy. So, in other words, the core needs of people with disabilities, including those living with dementia, are the same as everyone else's, right? Everything that you all have said would fit into one of these core needs. So it's the same as everyone else's: to feel useful, retain a sense of self-worth, give and receive love, care for others and ourselves. All of these same kind of things, to feel happiness, to be engaged. So we're not really so different after all when we think about it. Okay, so person-centered thinking. In a system-centered approach, you see someone as a client and you focus on their deficits and their needs, which lead you to certain conclusions as to what kind of treatment the client needs or what kind of support the client needs. In a person-centered approach, we see someone as a person first, not someone who is defined by just their disability, right? A person's disability, diagnosis, that is just one piece of who they are. There's this whole other person there that we need to make sure, as we're designing support services and helping to train our team members, that they understand the whole person, not just that diagnosis piece. And this is from Angela Amato. Okay. So language is how we activate our values. Among the values that are central to our work is to have a culture of mutual respect where there is power with, not power over. So I really want to kind of highlight what that means. Instead of doing things for a person or to a person, we're really doing it with them. And we're going to go over in just a minute an example of what that might look like. So we're not just simply coming in and kind of doing things for people, but to the best of their ability, we're engaging them, we're including them, we're allowing them to have some choice, and even the right to refuse. So making sure that it's that joint effort, level playing field with the person, not for or over. And our shared vision is one where people have positive control over the lives they have chosen for themselves, are recognized and valued for their contributions, both current and potential, to their communities. So not only how they're contributing now, but maybe what are some other ways they can contribute in the future, or on a day where they're having a better day, or maybe they get their their health needs or their medication sorted out, and they might be in a better spot in the future. So kind of making sure we value them and recognize that for wherever they're at any point, and that they're supported in a web of relationships, both natural and paid, within their communities. So we want to avoid language that makes people feel different from us, or that othering, language that makes people the object of a process rather than an active participant, and language that diminishes the person or their contribution or references people as objects. And that's from Michael Small. A person's self-image is tied to the words used about him or her. People first language reflects good manners, not political correctness, and it was started by individuals who said, "We are not our disabilities." So we really want to focus on assets. So instead of seeing a problem, we need to shape that into a need. So what is routinely called a problem actually reflects a need. Susan doesn't have a problem walking. She needs or uses a wheelchair. Ryan doesn't have behavior problems. He needs behavioral support, or, to take it a step further, all behavior is communication, right? So it's not just, oh, he's having a behavior, he's being non-compliant, but he's actually trying to communicate something, and it's our job to try to investigate what that might be. Or something wrong. We knew there was something wrong because ... fill in the blank. How would you feel if those who are supposed to love and support you constantly talk about what's wrong with you? In our family, having ADHD is just our superpower. So we try to turn it into something unique. It's what makes us creative. It's what gives us the energy to do lots of fun things. And so, we try to shape that difference into something positive, not something that's wrong or broken within us. So again, back to the chat. What would you do? You just met a new person served by your organization. Name 5 ways that you can learn about the person's priorities, preferences, and perspective. And if you only have a couple of ideas, just put them in individually, that's fine. So how could you learn about a person's priorities, preferences, and perspective? So let's see. Lots of really great ideas in here. So simply ask them, right? Have a conversation, talking to the person or their family or networks. So yeah, people who might know them the best. Listen, like, yeah, observe, listen, talking to them and get to know them. For somebody who doesn't use verbal communication, observe what they seem to naturally want to do, give them choices and see which they select, right? Uh, let's see, spending time with them. Ask open-ended questions, asking questions just like we would anyone else, getting to know you questions, sitting and talking, observing, communication, observation, history, ask their family and friends, observing their actions or reactions, reading their plans, right? Yeah, sometimes it's just looking in their record and seeing what you have for documentation, engage, interact, observations. They come in so fast, it's hard for me to keep scrolling here. Looking at objects in their space or things they have with them. Yeah, very good. Ask and observe. What are they wearing? What snack might they be eating? What activity were they doing before you arrived? Ask what they're doing afterward. Very good. Those are great, great ideas. Look around. What pictures or photos around? Yes. Ask those things that are ask about those things that are in their environment. Right. Yeah. Use those little conversation pieces as tools and ways that you can get to know them. Playing and enjoying time together, talking to them, taking an interest in wanting to know more about them. At a date program, show them the schedule of different groups and ask them which ones sound the most interesting to them. Ask if they have any ideas for groups they'd like to start. Ooh, I like that one. So it's kind of empowering them to be a really active participant in the process, right? You're getting some feedback from them even on your programs and what you offer within your organization. That's excellent. Asking them about their interests, engage in active listening, listening to their language or gestures. And language is a really good one. What if English isn't their first language? So really even making sure you have that cultural sensitivity. Maybe there are certain ways that some topics are discussed or not discussed within their specific culture. So really understanding that piece of it as well. Let's see, lots of observation. That's great. Just kind of taking a time to step back and observe. Getting to know them, social assessment, have a conversation with them, show respect and communication to connect and listen, observe, interact. And a lot of this too is really empowering your team members to, have permission to take that time, right? To stop and get to know them. It's really easy to get so bogged down in the day to day, the next activity and things that need to get taken care of throughout the day. And so be really mindful of, are you creating those opportunities within your organization for your team members to really get to know people? Because it can be hard. I get it. We all have, state, federal funding, documentation requirements, all these different types of rules and regulations we have to follow, and make sure that that doesn't overshadow the opportunity to really do the good, meaningful work of sitting and engaging with somebody and getting to know them. Let's see. Try to figure out why they may engage in an inappropriate or potentially dangerous behavior. So yeah, what are they trying to communicate there? Trying to figure that out. Perfect. Those are really great examples. So, some other ideas might be, either observing or talking to family members, what does the person do when they get anxious? Like, what does that look like if somebody's uncomfortable? What does it look like when they're happy and content? um, and what has been important to the person throughout their lifetime. So really understanding some of those really deep ingrained important things for that person. You could also use video interviews or video clips of the person in their home and community environments to share with your staff and program managers at the initiation of services. So kind of building in that initial intake process, asking the family, hey, take a couple of clips and videos of, what is the person doing at home? What does this look like when they're at home? Or, what do you typically do to support them during mealtime? Or how do they wind down? Or what are some ways that we can, best support them? And what does their environment look like and sound like and feel like? So video is a really great way to capture some of that. And it's a way that you can then communicate it to whoever is going to be supporting the person within your organization. So it's a really nice way to kind of get that quick snapshot, because we can't always really get that from paperwork or somebody telling us something. You have to almost kind of see it and observe them in their environment. And I love that we have the option of maybe doing some video. Okay. So again, let's think. If you could please answer, let's answer the first one. So just for the focus on the first one, what did you eat or drink this morning? So just type in the chat. This morning, what did you eat or drink? Oops, I just accidentally clicked. Okay, we've got coffee, decaf coffee, apple, tea, granola coffee and strawberries, coffee and water, coffee, decaf coffee, 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 lemon water, apple coffee. I think that's an apple and coffee, because apple coffee sounds kind of interesting. Coffee and yogurt, oatmeal, coffee. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of caffeine addicts on here. Coffee and peanut butter toast, some protein in there. Eggs, bacon, and tea. Coffee, water, pancakes, and orange juice. OJ and peanut butter crackers. Breakfast bar, water, breakfast burrito, cup of coffee, and a bowl of oatmeal. Oatmeal porridge and tea. Diet Coke and string cheese. Breakfast champions. Protein shake. Eggs and toast. Yogurt, English muffin, green tea. Microwave breakfast sandwich and coffee. Diet Dr. Pepper. Protein shake and yogurt. Lots of protein focus. I like that. I'm a little jealous. Pop-Tart and chocolate milk. Skipped breakfast this morning, but had water with an emergency. Gummy bears and Coke. Popcorn. Oh, those are fun. So let's see, for you coffee drinkers, if I said we only have decaf tea today, do you think that you would still be able to kind of plug along with your day? Or how would your morning start if your only option was decaf tea? No protein shakes, no coffee. We're just going to have decaf tea today. Ruined day. Fine, I drink tea. Somebody be okay with that. Sad. Water. I don't know, I might be okay. Question mark. I'm fine with tea. AWOL and go to Starbucks. Oh, a rebel. Okay. We'd get some elopement. Okay. I would be struggling. Pass. Sad. Adapt and move on. Quietly cry later. Thank you. It's my favorite. So there's a decaf tea lover here. I would be sleeping at work. Oh well, I'll get some later. Oh, really flexible person on there. So yeah, can you imagine something as simple as what you have to drink in the morning, and not having that option could really impact you, right? Again, kind of going back to that, what kind of music did you listen to this morning, or what sort of sound was in your environment? That can really set off the rest of your day. I mean, for some of you, I'm sure it could even give you a headache. You'd be feeling pretty crummy if you didn't get your caffeine in the morning. So, okay, next one. Do you take a bath or shower? When do you prefer to bathe? So do you bathe in the morning, evening? Is it bath, shower? How many times a day? How many times is it every other day? So we've got shower at night, shower in the morning and night. See, every time I do this, there's always somebody who's like twice a day. Morning on the weekends. Let's see. Wait. Oh, it's going too fast. Shower every day, both night and in the morning. Night shower. Shower AM every other day. Shower before work and after. Bathe after working out. So it really just depends on when I can fit it in, right? So that's me, right? I have to have flexibility depending on my day and what's in it. It could be any time of the day. So I need to have that flexibility in my bathing schedule. Shower does not matter what time. Shower morning and night, depending on the time, once a day. So, what if I was like, well, I don't have staff to help you. I don't have enough staff to help you shower at night. You're going to have to shower in the morning. You're just going to have to wait and shower in the morning. Now, for me, if I shower in the evening, especially too close to go to before I go to bed, my hair is completely unmanageable in the morning. I would have to just get it wet or shower in the morning anyway. So, and I also just would feel like I didn't get that fresh start in the morning. I'd feel kind of groggy. So, yeah, I mean, so another example of if I came to you and was like, well, our staff situation is XYZ, we're just not going to be able to accommodate you. And so kind of thinking about how does that make you feel if something as important as your personal hygiene was interrupted or not done in a way that you're comfortable with or that's going to work for you. And I think, sometimes when we're building supports for a person, we're really taking for granted that that's a pretty, hygiene and how you do that is a pretty personal choice. And, really the more a person depends on others for support, the more they are at risk of not having choice. And so it is on us to ensure we build that choice into their day-to-day routine and schedule, no matter what type of program you have. So what is your favorite leisure activity or pastime? Reading and hiking, dance, reading and shopping, working out, hanging out with your dogs, ooh, relaxing with a good horror movie. All right, so what if I said we don't do that here? We don't have any books for you to read. There's no place to really relax. You're just going to have to stick with the activity schedule that we have. We don't have time for that. You probably would be pretty upset, right? If you weren't able to engage in some of your favorite pastimes. So we'll kind of the next one is, are you married, single? What is your relationship status? So I don't want to take up too much time here. I want to make sure we can get the post test done. But this one I always think is funny because we'll have somebody who says, they're married and then I say, well, what if you had to be single? What if, you weren't supporting them being married? Some people who have been married for a long time are like, I'm good with that. But that wasn't the point of that question. That one's just like, do you have the opportunity to be in the type of relationships that you want to be in, or at least seek out those types of relationships? And then, do you own pets? This is the biggest one for people we support. I heard so many people earlier say that they, one of the things that's really meaningful and important for them is their pets, is the relationship they have with their pets. It's pretty remarkable how many people we support who don't have the option of having a pet as a companion. So, really thinking about that. Why is that? Why are we not supporting more people in having pets and having that type of relationship if that's something that's really, important or therapeutic to them? So that was great. Thank you. Moving along here. I want to make sure we have time to wrap up. And you will get these slides. So I absolutely recognize that this pyramid is very hard to read. When you're on the webinar, but you'll get it and you can look at it in more detail. It's really just taking Maslow's hierarchy of needs and kind of starting at, if you're thinking about person-centeredness, the very basics of it is, that foundation is making sure that your organization's values represent person-centered thinking, your philosophy, you understand rights, and personal outcomes, use people first language. That's kind of like just that bare minimum organizational culture. Then assessments. You have some sort of mechanism to assess a person's support network, their satisfaction with services, their health, what skills they have, what their vision is, their likes, dislikes, interests. That's that next step. Then after that, service plan development. So after we learn the specifics, we have some mechanism for putting that into a plan. So you kind of formalizing that and taking that information to create goals and different types of services somebody might need. Then there's, of course, implementation. Are we collecting data to assess, is this working? Making sure staff are trained, that they understand due process before they're trying to restrict a person's rights, including those informal supports. Monitoring, so not just implementing, but then going back and checking and monitoring and reassessing. And then at the very top there, meaningful life. So person who can advocate for themselves, they feel secure and confident and in control. So that's kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, looking through that person-centered lens. So making biscuits, again, I know you're not going to be able to read this one, but you will get the PowerPoint. This is a really cool example of when we want to develop a goal or even engage somebody in an activity within our organization. And you might have somebody where you think, oh, there's no way they can do that. I think the other day I was talking to somebody and they said, well, our adult day program has this activity where we do current events. We talk about current events. We get together in a group. And so, some people might not understand current events or might not be able to contribute to the conversation in the same way. And so that's okay. They can still participate and it's just going to look different. And there's kind of different levels of engagement and participation. So this is a really neat example of making biscuits, something as simple as making biscuits. So there's that kind of at the top, the person can initiate, plan, and complete all aspects of making biscuits. They can decide on the kind of biscuits, they can plan, buy ingredients, follow the recipe, and successfully prepare and cook the biscuits. Then you take it a step down. I can do it all if someone sets it up. So able to make biscuits once the ingredients are set out and recipe is explained by another person, or I can do some part of it. I can either measure, mix, or shape biscuits depending on ability. I can do it if someone shows me, so able to repeat one step with prompting and help. I can watch and monitor, able to tell you if the biscuits look right or listen for the oven clock to ring. I can talk about it. I can talk about my own experiences of making biscuits. I can critique. I can taste the biscuits. And then simply, I can watch and be. I am able to watch and listen while you make biscuits. So even if you have a team member who is, doing something within your program, there you can still have a person there and just engaged and present and being, spoken with and kind of explaining what that staff person can be explaining what they do, even if the person is engaging, they're simply listening and watching the process. So making biscuits can mean a whole lot of different things. And this is why we want to be really objective, right? When we talk about, oh, they can't cook, they can't prepare a meal for themselves, or they can't, use the restroom independently or whatever it is. Well, what does that really mean? What is the expectation? I'm sure there are some parts of that task that we can build into that support and engage the person rather than just this kind of all or none mentality. All right. So be a person-centered thinker. Learn about the person's needs, strengths, and preferences. Do not assume that you know what is best, and create support that reflects the person's needs, strengths, and preferences. So, and I want to say too, I think this is where a lot of organizations can get stuck, and it's really easy to do this, where you might have a mechanism for collecting information on a person's needs, strengths, and preferences. You might even have a personal outcomes form in your whole plan packet where a case manager or somebody's going through and writing down all those great personal outcomes. But then are you seeing that transfer into the actual support the person's receiving? Are those components really written into the person's goals or their care services and their day-to-day life? Or is it just something that's asked once a year on a paper to say we did it, check the box, and move on? To really make sure you don't just stop there, but that you actually see a link between the information you collect about a person and then the actual support that you're providing. And then, of course, ask which terminology they prefer. And then just last slide here, this is contact information for Neighbor Network of Northern Nevada. We do have programs that support both people who are aging, people with disabilities. We focus a lot on dementia, and then we also have some programs that are fully inclusive, time exchange, volunteer program. We do a lot in transportation. So we serve 12 counties in Northern Nevada. I'm always happy to network and chat. I joke that Nevada is very spread out. We've got a lot of rural and even more of the pioneer type areas, and so it can be challenging to come up with a lot of innovative solutions just because of that expansive geographic area. So I love learning about what's happening in other communities and states to see what potentially might work in Nevada. So always happy to collaborate, and hopefully I didn't go too much. We want to make sure we get that post test done. So I will stop talking now. Thank you so
That
much.
in 1 second, I do notice we have a couple of people whose hands are up. Kathy Bishop, would you like to handle those? And I am going to put up the, excuse me, I'm going to put up the post test, and like you did at the very beginning, if you would answer those questions. And the other thing I want to do is, let me stop Amy's screen sharing here, unfortunately. But let me put up this last slide. And you will see at the, we've got 3 QR codes there. There is one for Opeka, one for the NTG. Really encourage you to check out our respective websites, lots of resources that I think you'll find helpful. And at the bottom is a QR code that you can scan that links to the prior Opeka webinars. So if you haven't, for whatever reason, already received those, or you just recently registered and didn't have the ability to watch the prior webinars live, you can access those webinars through that QR code. We do have Kathy Bishop. Are you there? Kathy Bishop?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And I'm
Can
having
you
trouble
handle-
finding those with a raised hand. Maybe I'm one of them.
If you go to participants.
I have. I'm in
At the
participants right now.
All right,
Yes,
hang
I
on just
see
a minute
raised
and
hands.
do you see them?
I
If not,
see, but I
tell me.
can't see the specific participant as I go down the
Okay,
list.
all right.
Yes,
I'll
yes.
take care of it then. Let me launch this poll so people can get started with it. Hang on.
I have answered all the questions that were there in the Q&A, so they're set.
Okay, so the post-test poll is launched, and let me go to them. Diana Tatters, I'm gonna unmute you, and you can unmute yourself. Are you there, Diana? Do you have a question? Go ahead, and looks like you're still muted on your end. You can unmute yourself if you do have a question or you want to say something. While we're thinking about that, let me go to Maria. We have a Maria S. who had her hand raised. Maria, if you're there with us, go ahead and unmute yourself. Maria, are you there? All right, we're going to try to go to Joe Boyle, had a hand raised. Go ahead, Joe, if you had a question or something, if you'd like to. Joe, are you there?
Joe has unmuted himself.
Yep, go
herself.
ahead, Joe. We should be able to hear you if you have your microphone turned up. You're unmuted, but we're still not hearing you. I don't know if maybe the volume on your microphone might be turned down. If you have a question, go ahead and, if you want to put it in the chat box, we'd love to hear from you. And Maria and Diana, if either of you did have a question or a comment, we'd be happy to
I have
take.
found them and pressed allow to talk and ask to
Yep.
unmute. So if you just
Yeah,
unmute
it
your
has,
microphone.
yeah, I did that. It was done. Yeah, I did that, but still not hearing from them. So, we'll hold on that. Joe, again, if you wish to, if you did have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat box and we will go from there.
Someone said, I'm not sure that people can unmute themselves. You can if we give permission, and that's what Catherine and I both did.
Yep, you should be able to see the poll now. I do see people taking it. So for those of you who weren't able to see it, oh, Joe says no question. He just accidentally pressed the button. So no problem. I'm just hearing something. I'm not sure what I'm hearing, but anyway, the poll is up. I know people are seeing it because I can see they're responding. So please go ahead. Amy, I see we've got one comment. Great information, especially on language use. So let me see if we had any other. Thanks for the information. I need to leave to teach a class. Thank you.
I just see someone also who just joined from Alaska and missed it. Don't worry, Janice. This has been recorded and you will be sent the link to the recording probably a few days after today's webinar.
They should have it out. I should have it out tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
Great webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you for this great webinar. If the poll should be showing up on your screen. So if you haven't already, please just take a couple minutes. This does help Opeka be responsive to their funders and show them that their money was well spent. Thank you for the information and webinar. Thank you. I look forward to receiving the recording. Thank you. Great webinar. Awesome information. So lots of thank yous. Still a couple minutes here if anybody has a question they would like to put in.
And I just want to say thank you for such an active audience. It was really, really nice to have so much feedback and everybody participating. I love that. It can be a little challenging on virtual meetings, so I appreciate your participation.
And we will be sending the PowerPoint out along with the link to the recording. And I will say, if anyone doesn't get the recording by the first of the week, my goal is to get it out to you tomorrow afternoon. If you don't receive it in the link to the PowerPoint, please just shoot me an email and let me know. Sometimes agency and organizations have pretty secure email protocols and it will block something that comes in if it's got an unknown attachment or a link or something in it. We do find that that happens sometimes. So if you don't receive it by the first of the week, just let me know. I'm happy to send it to a personal email or some other manner. So I'm going to leave the poll up again for those folks who are finishing it. Thank you so much to our presenter today. Great information. And you said something at the very end, Amy, that really resonated with me, which is that, so often people collect that information, but what do they do with the information? And I suspect that's a real problem. And so hopefully that's a good reminder to everyone that information isn't moving the dial if it's not actively linked to the individual's everyday life. So thank you for that reminder. So again, if you haven't already, please finish that last post-test poll. And it looks like just about everybody has. So with that, if anyone has any last questions or comments, I will leave the chat box open for a moment or two, but otherwise have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you all so much for everything you do. And we look forward to seeing you next month, and I'll be sending out the schedule for the final 5 webinars within the next few days, and look forward to seeing you all again next time. And thank you to Phyllis and Opeka for, sponsoring this. I think we're getting lots of good information out to an awful lot of people. So I think it's pretty darn successful. So thank you to Phyllis and Opeka. So thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Are you still there?
Look like anyone, yeah, no one else is responding to the poll. Looks like 100% of people participated, so I'm gonna end the poll.
Wonderful.
And with that, I'm going to end the webinar. So thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon, Phyllis. Kathy, I'll see you shortly. And thanks again.
Phyllis,
Thank you. Yes.
Kathy,
let's talk Thursday or
Kathy?
Friday next week. Yep,
Okay, I'll send
Okay.
you an email with some times.
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, I was still recording. I'm gonna have to edit
Oh,
all of those out, but that's
sorry.
all right. That's okay. Anyway, good night, everybody. Have a great time.
Good night. Thank you.